Behice Boran and Niyazi Berkes. As a matter of fact, first I will take up Niyazi Berkes, and then I will go into Behice Boran. This I call, or it's called, in the history of Turkish sociology, these two sociologists are called the members of Ankara School of Sociology, because they formulated this approach, or for the first time they entered into sociological scene, in Ankara history, language, history, and geography faculty of Ankara University. There was at that time a general department of humanities and social sciences, where there was sociology, psychology, and maybe anthropology and other fields. And these two sociologists, Niyazi Berkes and Behice Boran, they obtained their graduate diplomas. One Niyazi Berkes from University of Chicago, and Behice Boran from University of Michigan, and joined this department, Ankara University, language, history, geography faculty, and started lecturing, publishing articles in journals, and they became very active. Gradually, it became Ankara School of Sociological Approach. Although they were not alone, there were also Muzaffer Sherif, for example, a social psychologist. As I will mention in few minutes, because of some problems in the department, in the faculty, as a matter of fact, in the university, they were forced to leave the school, and Muzaffer Sherif went to America, and was hired in a university in United States of America, and he became one of the founders of social psychology. For example, he has written an outline of social psychology, which was a very famous, much used textbook in social psychology. And there was also Naili Boratav, who was a folklorist, who also was forced to leave Turkey, and he went to Paris in his case, and he continued in one of the universities in Paris. He continued his studies. Okay, now let me go back to Niyazi Berkes. Yes, Niyazi Berkes was born in Lefkoşa, Cyprus, in 1908. Actually, now 1908 is the year in the second constitutional monarchy in Turkey. And he started his education there, and then he moved to Istanbul, and he joined Istanbul Erkek Lisesi, and he graduated from Istanbul Erkek Lisesi in 1928. And then he joined in Istanbul University in law, faculty of law of Istanbul University. But after a while, he wasn't happy with his with law faculty, it seems, and he he transferred his department to philosophy department. Philosophy, sociology, they were together perhaps at that time in Istanbul University. He transferred into philosophy, and he graduated from Department of Philosophy in 1931. Okay, from 1931 to 1935, he was in Ankara. He traveled to Ankara and joined halk evleri, people's houses. That was an organization of adult education that established by the Republic. So there he encountered how Kemalist revolution, Republican revolution was carried out and disseminated throughout Turkey into various cities and branches of schools throughout Turkey. So for 3 and 4 years, he worked in people's house, and for him, it seemed it was a field work. And coming from Cyprus, studying law and philosophy in Istanbul, and then joining people's houses in Ankara. And then he decided to be a faculty member, and he became an assistant in the faculty, but he decided that without a degree, he cannot do much in the faculty. So he applied to University of Chicago. As you know, University of Chicago is Chicago Sociology Department is the one that a department that we know from symbolic interactionists, Mead or Blumer, or many other sociologists, Goffman. But it's also my university. I had my MA degree and PhD degree from University of Chicago. So Niyazi Berkes also became a student in University of Chicago Department of Sociology, and he was there for 4 years, and then he came back and joined to this Faculty of Languages, History and Geography of Ankara University, as I mentioned at the beginning, and he was together with in the department of philosophy, sociology, psychology. He was joined by Behice Boran'a, Pertel Nahir Boratab, and Muzaffer Sherif, the famous four. Now, from 1939 to 1946, 47, for 6-7 years, it was so productive for them, especially for two of them, are sociologists, and also for social psychologists and the folklorist members. For example, Niyazi Berkes carried out rural sociological research in Ankara villages, and he wrote Villages of Ankara. He published it in 1942. For example, when years later, in 1965, 66, when I started my rural sociological research, village research, I used this book written by Niyazi Berkes. More or less parallel to this, Behice Boran did a study in Manisa villages. She studied two groups of villages in Manisa, one mountainous villages, the other plain villages. Anyway, I will come back to that. Now, Niyazi Berkes, after publishing that book and being very productive, but somehow after the First World War, Turkish government during the war was neutral. It didn't join the Axis or the müttefik, or who are aligned together, aligned ones and the Axis ones, Germany on the one side, England and America on the other side, these two sides. And at the end, Germany lost, and Ottoman Empire, no, Turkish Republic remained neutral, and hence was forced to choose sides. But at that time, Soviet Russia demanded cars from Republic, because during Ottoman times, for a period of time, Russian Empire occupied Kars province. So, you know, that was a threat, really, and hence Turkey joined the free world, the first world, which is led by United States as a superpower, European countries, etc. The second world became Russia as the superpower, and other Soviet socialist republics, and these two powers, and Turkey joined the one led by United States. But in order to show that they are not neutral anymore, and they are very much against Soviet bloc, Turkish government and Turkish media has chosen these social scientists in Ankara University, as I said, Behice Boran, Niyazi Berkes, Muzaffer Sherif, Pertel Nail Boratov, and students at that time of the Nationalist Student Union started attacking them, and hence Muzaffer Sherif went to United States very early, and I said he established social psychology in the United States of America. Pertel Nail Boratov went to Paris. Now, Behice Boran stayed, and there was a court case. Okay, now, they were first evicted from the faculty, but later the Senate of the university said, no, they are not guilty. So they came back, and then this time Minister of Education evicted them again, and they were put to court. The court continued until 1950, and they were found not guilty by the court. But anyway, in the meantime, Niyazi Berkes went to Canada and joined McGill University. Niyazi Berkes was there, and as I said, Behice Boran stayed in Turkey. I will come back to that. Now, Niyazi Berkes, when he was in McGill University, he was also active there in especially let me see, in McGill University's various centers of research. research centers. For example, Institute of Islamic Studies was one that he was very active. And so from 1946 to 1956, he carried out his research, and he became full professor in 1956 in McGill University in Canada. He taught many courses, and he wrote a famous book, Secularization of Turkey. This book is later translated into Turkish, Türkiye'de çağdaşlaşma. We will come back to that. So from 1946 to 1975, how many years? 29 years, something like 30 years. He was in Canada, in McGill University. He retired in 1975 and went to England, and he was in the city Heath. And when I was there for a conference, to present the conference, I visited him, and this was in 1986 or 87. Anyway, it should have been, I just cannot remember exactly. He died in towards the end of 1988. So it could even be 1988. So before he died in 1988, I encountered Niyazi Berkes, and he was in much love of Turkey, although he was forced to leave Turkey, but he did not come back to Turkey. Although he was found not guilty, but he continued, tried on Turkish social structure, Turkish history, and also Middle East history. Now, let me briefly go through his books and articles. Now, in 1936, actually, when he was in University of Chicago, he has written an article called Sociology in Turkey and published it in American Journal of Sociology in 1936. To publish in American Journal of Sociology is very difficult, and he did that. And I put that, you can read that, Sociology in Turkey. It's a very good read. Now, as I mentioned, in 1942, his bazı Ankara köyleri üzerine bir araştırma, his village research in some Ankara villages. Okay. In 1946, he wrote a book on political parties. And in 1959, he edited a book on Ziya Gökalp, Turkish Nationalism and Western Civilization, Selected Essays of Ziya Gökalp in 1959. Now, here you can find Ziya Gökalp's works translated into English and edited by Niyazi Berkes. And then in 1964, he wrote his famous book, which I put also in our page. You can see this book. This is a thick volume, The Development of Secularism in Turkey, as it is translated into Turkish as Türkiye'de çağdaşlaşma. That is 1964. In 1965, he wrote about Westernism, nationalism, and social revolutions. In 1969, he wrote about Arab world and how nationalism, Islam, and socialism in the Arab world were related to each other, how they influence each other. In 1969, he wrote a book about history of economic history of Turkey, and in 1975, again he wrote a book how in Turkish thought, what is the meaning of Western Europe? What is the meaning of Europe and West in general? In 1985, 3 years before he died, he wrote, or it is edited perhaps, his book. This is an edited book, yes, on philosophy and sociology in 1985. And after he died, his autobiography is being published in 1997. Unutulan Yıllar, the years forgotten years. His article published in American Journal of Sociology. What he does here is he goes into a history as back as to Farabi. Farabi, as you know, is an 8th century Turkish Muslim philosopher, thinker, that was influenced by antique Greek philosophy. And for example, he wrote a book, Virtuous City. In this Virtuous City, and he summarizes, Niyazi Berkes summarizes this book. Now, this Virtuous City is a kind of utopia, a utopian description of a utopian society, a society in ideal terms, how it can be, what aspects one can focus upon. So he starts with household, actually, and then he goes into a stopping place, a kind of where people gather together, and then he talks about mahalle, neighborhood, and then he talks about village. You know, he talks about each of them, how they are and how they should be. It is a normative, in a sense, a normative book. And then he comes into the city. And the book's name is actually Virtual City. There is city. Medinetil Fazıla. The Arabic name is Medine city. Medinetil Fazıla, Fazıl city, Fazıl Medine, faziletli şehir, virtuous city in the English, the virtuous city. Now, he says from that period, from the period of Farabi, we can come to a period in Ottoman Empire when, for example, he mentions about Emrullah Kınalızade, who lived in Ottoman Empire around 16th century, from 15,000 to 1563. This is the time of Emrullah Kınalızade, is one of the thinkers that is parallel to Sultan Süleyman, magnificent Süleyman. The same period. Süleyman was the Sultan, as you know, throughout 1940s, 50s, and 50s, and 1540s, 1550s, 1566 until 1566. So Kınalızade wrote a book again about an ideal Ottoman society, how an ideal Ottoman society should be. Now, that book is later a similar book is written by Katip Çelebi. Now, Katip Çelebi is next century, 17th century. He lived between 1609 and 1607. Now, Katip Çelebi is much influenced by Ibn Haldun's sociological approach. And I am sure also Kınalızade is also influenced. They are both influenced, both Farabi and Ibn Haldun. Okay? And then Niyazi Berkes goes into how around 19th century, the beginning of 19th century, or towards the end of 18th century, Ottoman Empire started losing wars against the European powers, and how they reconsidered the army organization and their technology, and a series of reforms. So Niyazi Berkes in this article talks about them, and then how various social thinkers emerged in between Ziya Gökalp and Katip Çelebi. And then he goes into Ziya Gökalp. He talks about Ziya Gökalp sociology, which he did. I will not go into that. How he genuinely developed Durkheimian methodology, how he applied it to Ottoman society and developed new ideas. And then after Ziya Gökalp, he goes into a German professor, German sociology professor, Gerhard Kessler. So Ziya Gökalp and Kessler are influential in the development of two sociologists that we discussed last week. Who were they? Hilmi Ziya Ülken and Ziyaettin Fahri Fındıkoğlu. Then he talks about these two, Hilmi Ziya Ülken and Ziyaettin Fahri Fındıkoğlu. Remember, this article is written in 1936. So they are very, very young sociologists. When we studied them last week, we lost them in 1974, as you remember. But his work is when they were. His work covers the period when they were young. Okay, now I will go to Niyazi Berkes's very briefly famous book, and world famous, Development of Secularism in Turkey. Now, I reproduced it here. As I said, you can go to the 6th week of our older syllabus there, and I put here a summary of the book. As I said, this is a 350, 400 page book. It's a large volume, really, and he says that this study, Development of Secularism in Turkey, now this is, remember, this is 1960s. Now, in 1960s, in sociology, already there is a move from a macro sociology to micro sociology, symbolic interactionism, phenomenological sociology. But Niyazi Berkes combines micro sociology and macro sociology in this book, Development of Secularism in Turkey, and tries to understand at the macro level, at the global level, in terms of Ottoman Empire, Europe relationships, how Ottoman state and Ottoman society being in a different civilization and religion, Islam, while the victorious European societies and states are now undergoing an industrial revolution, and a capitalist economic structure, and expanding towards Ottoman Empire and towards the rest of the world. How that influenced Ottoman Empire and the ideology and culture in Ottoman Empire, and how the reforms in the state were carried out. Senedi İttifak in 1808, as you remember, the document of union, of how the Ottoman society was going to be kept as a union, and as you know, later in 08, Union and Order Party committee is established. Anyway, union always became an important leitmotif of Ottoman thinkers, and also order. What kind of order, social order, political order should be established, and what will be the ideas, ideology that will accompany this new order that is being established. So Niyazi Berkes, in this book, Development of Secularism in Turkey, summarizes all these developments, the young Ottomans, young Turks, all those thinkers, young Ottomans and young Turks, and eventually, of course, Ziya Gökalp, Prince Bahattin, and it's a and Republican period, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, and reforms and revolutions, and how Turkish society and Turkish state is being transformed into a secular direction. So he's writing in the beginning of 1960s. So also 1950 transition from single party to multi-party system. He is covering that too. So it is a full history of Turkish modernization. Anyway, when it was translated into Turkish, Türkiye'de çağdaşlaşma, it was indeed called Türkiye'de çağdaşlaşma, and it could have been easily modernization of Turkish society and of Turkish economy and of Turkish state. It could have been. Yes. So Berkes's contributions to development of sociology in Turkey is cannot be denied, really. And in my work, in my own work, I used his rural sociological research and also this research, and he also wrote a book which influenced my underdeveloped capitalism and its penetration into Turkish villages. As I might have mentioned before, I wrote this book when I was a third-year student in Middle East Technical University. There, I used Niyazi Berkes's this book that I didn't mention so far. The name of the book was Why We Are Underdeveloped for Last 200 Years. Now, this book was written in 1963-64, more or less at the same time that he published this Development of Secularism in Turkey. He wrote that book in Turkish. It was a smaller book, but as a student, I came across that book and I read that book, and this book and his Ankara Villages book and Mübeccel Cries, as I will mention in the future after the term exam, Mübeccel Cries' work in Adana villages influenced my work in the Ankara villages and Antalya villages and led me to the writing of that book, Development of Underdeveloped Capitalism in Turkey, and its introduction, its penetration into Turkish villages, that book. So I owe much to Niyazi Berkes. As a matter of fact, I say Mübeccel Cry is my academic mother. Niyazi Berkes is my academic grandfather, kind of, because Mübeccel Cry was Niyazi Berkes's and Behice Boran'a's student in language, history, and geography faculty of Ankara University. So Niyazi Berkes, Behice Boran, Mübeccel Cry, Bahattin, Aksit. So this is the chronology.